So let's go ahead and start chapter 2 of the 7th edition of the NASM Certified Personal Trainer Certification Textbook. And chapter 2 is the personal training profession. So basically what we're doing here in this second chapter is kind of continuing an introduction, so to speak, to the entire profession of personal training, where you're going to find yourself as a trainer. And so in chapter 2, what NASM has done is they're giving you a little heads up as to not only the type of employment that you could expect to participate in, but kind of how to do some of these things that are necessary when it comes to the business, end of training, as well as the employment. And so as always, make sure you got your pad and writing implement so you can take notes as needed. Again, chapter 2 is more of an introduction than it is anything else. It's really, really good information. And the learning objectives are employment opportunities, your professional resume, for instance. It does give you some information on how to do that, describe the most common daily job tasks. Now, again, this is NASM's way of kind of giving you sort of a overview as well as a preview of what you can sort of expect within the personal training industry as an employee, or even if you were going to open your own business. So they start out with the fitness industry employment landscape. Just keep in mind that the personal training industry is changing daily, weekly. It changes all the time. The landscape is constantly in flux. The important thing to keep in mind as you're reading through this chapter, again, are some basic general guidelines that are going to be helpful to you as you now proceed after you pass the certification exam, proceed into the employment realm. And they do tell you the importance of education and certification, employment opportunities, and there are many. They come in many different ways. One of them is commercial health clubs. So reading through this it's a good idea to read through it, but please understand that there's only so much they can help you with in an actual textbook versus what you're going to need to do when you get out into the real world. But they are giving you some information on what it's like to work, or so to speak, in a commercial health club, independent professionals, and the different types of health clubs. You'll notice that I'm moving through this fairly quickly. It's not a bad idea, of course. Table 2.1, the types of health clubs, and you are probably familiar with some of these. If not, you could just read through. It's good information, good overall general information. Same thing with table 2.2, which are independent contractor opportunities. And remember, you can be an employee. You can go to a commercial health club and say, hey, I'm NASM certified and I'm looking for a job as a trainer. And you can be employed at a commercial health club. You can also go into that same facility if this is what they do, and not all commercial health clubs do this. You can say, look, I'm an independent contractor. I'd like to get my own clients and pay either a rental fee or a per client fee to actually train people in your commercial health club. That would be an independent contractor. And there are those opportunities. There's a number of different cost scenario differences, obviously, between being a 1099 independent contractor or an actual employee of a fitness facility. And then they get into the small group training, which, by the way, is kind of that is the move forward for trainers to maximize revenue on an hourly basis, is to do small group training. And it's not a bad idea to look into that, as well as sort of this new up and coming way of training people, which is online fitness coaching. And they do an explanation of that and career development. You could get a job at a fitness center, what we call a big box gym. And you can start out as a trainer. You can also then move into, just like with any company, move into management, supervisory positions, management. And then there's the fitness manager, general manager. Now, again, they're just giving you some information on what we already know and what we see in the fitness industry today. And then there's the facility owner, which we know a lot of folks like to do, but they give you this information so you get a kind of a broad outline of what we're dealing with. And then NASM lists some adjacent careers, okay? Master instructor. We know of so many trainers who really, because they like helping people, they actually like to be instructors, teachers. Well, there are sort of these adjacent career paths that you can go down. And for sure, you can look into those. Writing, blogging, right? And NASM is giving you sort of a lowdown on a more modern paradigm in the fitness, wellness, health industry. Strength and conditioning coaching, social media influencers. Some of you may actually already be in these scenarios, college or trade school instructor. On page 35, NASM gives you something that you probably can do on your own anyway, and in fact, maybe have a professional help you with it, which is resume writing. The ability to write a resume, have something that you can give to a potential employer is really important. So they've decided to do this right at the very beginning of the textbook. On page 36, then you have their explanation of how to write a resume. You can read through that, but again, there are actual resume services that will help you if you don't know how to do it already. And then they go into the job search and interviewing, where to look for a job, right? What you should wear. Okay, if you don't know any of these things, it's a really good idea to get a leg up on how you get dressed up and how you actually interact and participate in the interview. They do give you that following up. It's not a bad idea to read through it. Again, unfortunately, in one sense, a lot of the information that you get in the textbook in this scenario might be changing or kind of developing a little bit differently by the time it actually gets printed. But it's a good idea to read through it and get an idea if you're not familiar already. And then NASM does something interesting, which is they give you what, and I'm going to put it in air quotes, a day in the life of a certified personal trainer, because there's so many variations on what personal trainers do in the actual fitness industry. This is just giving you one scenario. So if you don't like getting up early, apparently figure 2-2 is not going to be to your liking. But just so you understand, normally when I was training people, I was up at 4:30 because my first clients were normally at 5:30 or 5:45, sometimes 6 o'clock, depended on the way I had my schedule set up. But always got up early, because remember, you're servicing individuals. You're servicing from the training perspective. You're doing it when they're off. People go to work at 8 o'clock. Now, whatever the case is, you have to be available to train people before work. When they're off, we're on. That's always been sort of the mantra in fitness, is that when people are off, that's when we're on, right? We're providing training services normally before work, which is 6 to 8, 6 to 9, somewhere around there, and that's basically what they're telling you. So, and then they get into operations and kind of giving you and guidelines on uncompromising, as they call it, customer service, accountability, support, feedback, results. You are going to be in the customer service industry, and there's a lot that goes into customer service. And so they're giving you sort of the groundwork and explanation of kind of what you should be thinking about when it comes to providing good customer service. Safety procedures on page 43. And of course, now they move into sales and marketing. Obviously, there's simply no way to put all the things you need to know sales and marketing wise into one part of one chapter. There's literally entire courses just on sales, entire courses on marketing. Another thing about marketing is that it is changing rapidly because of the technology that we have. Facebook, Google, Instagram, all of these social media, YouTube, all of these technological opportunities to market are constantly changing. So it's simply not static, but what they're giving you here is some general information, especially for those individuals that have really no experience in it. So the sales and marketing component, introduction to the sales process, that's what they're going to go over with you over the next couple of pages. Prospecting and lead generation. Again, some of the things that they're going to go over with you here may or may not be part of your particular real life scenario. For instance, if you're going to be doing online training, then some of this stuff doesn't really pertain to you. However, getting a base understanding of sales and marketing, how to generate leads, building rapport, right? That's another area, is going to be really, really important. So again, I'm moving through this fairly rapidly now because the sales process requires, a decent amount of practice and experience, asking for the sale, closing. All of these components of the sales process require practice, and of course they simply cannot give you that information in a textbook, but they do give you a broad overview. And then the marketing component, as we move into page 48 and onward from here, using a SWOT analysis, building value and a brand. Chapter 2 is giving you a really good insight into the things you're going to need to know, right, in the real world. Again, I appreciate the way NASM has done this in this textbook, and they're giving you all this upfront information. There's a reality to what you're going to have to do. You're going to need to learn for yourself a lot more than just anatomy, phys, assessments. All of those they're telling you right up front, look, this is the reality of what you're going to be doing. And I think it's actually a good idea that they did this right up front. Using a SWOT analysis, SWOT, strength, weaknesses. If you've seen this, opportunities and threats in the business world, excuse me, in the business realm. The SWOT analysis is sort of the basis of which we begin and start movement towards developing and creating marketing plans and business plans. We look at the strengths of the company, the strengths of what you do if you are the company, the weaknesses. So SW, right? What are the opportunities in the market that you're going to be getting into, right? The O. And then the threats, right? In quotes, threats. What are the threats? Well, threats could be something as simple as 3 other really good personal trainers in the same gym that you want to do independent training in as an independent contractor. So all you're doing with a SWOT analysis is you're getting real. You're getting real. You're literally scratching below the surface of just a desire to be a trainer and help people. That's great. That's the passion. That's the drive. But you need to get real with this, and you need to write down. Basically, a SWOT analysis is essentially writing down, what are my strengths? What are the strengths of my business? What are my strengths personally? My personality, things like that. What are my weaknesses? Well, I don't like to get up early in the morning. You can see how a SWOT analysis makes things real. It brings things to the head. You get them on paper. You can analyze them. How do you then maximize your strengths? How do you work on and affect your weaknesses? How can you make the best of the opportunities? There may be 4 fitness centers that just opened up around you. That's an opportunity. There may be an opportunity for you to train people in your garage. I don't know, but these are opportunities. And then the threats are going to be identifying those issues that are going to impact you potentially negatively, right, as you move into the industry. And so table 223 on page 50 gives you a sample basically of a SWOT analysis. Again, doing the SWOT analysis and writing those things down, that's the first part. Now what you got to do, right, as a little aside, now what you have to do is you have to implement the strengthening of your weaknesses and working upon your strengths, and enhancing your ability to make the opportunities you have even better. And now you have to implement those strategies to work around the threats, right? Threats that are there when it comes time for you to start your training. And again, remember, the SWOT analysis is really designed to get you to get out of here, get out of your head, get it on paper, and actually take action. And so again, we've got to go over these things, and Nazem put it first, kind of in the very beginning of the book to get you thinking about that. And I think it's a good idea. Then there's the 4 Ps of marketing. It's not a bad idea, obviously, to know what the 4 Ps are: the product, the price, the place, and the promotion. Knowing that and memorizing that is important, of course, but the little sample marketing plan that they have here in table 2.4 is very helpful to kind of get you thinking more in the real world. Of course, they talk about social media. Read through it. We're living in a world where social media is going to be, if it isn't for you right now, it is the main way that you are going to market, to generate leads, however you're conducting your business. And so social media, critical industry, events, networking. Just keep in mind that as you're going through chapter 2, these are the things that I would be writing down and getting a better idea. What do I need to know? Email campaigns. How do I create email campaigns? Now, Nazem's not going to explain that to you because it requires some more in-depth learning and knowledge, but they're giving you the general overview. And continuing education. So the requirements, Nazem has specific requirements for continuing education. You need to know what those are. They call them CEUs, continuing education units. 0.1 per contact hour of training, for example, and they give you the explanation opportunities that you have to get continuing education are through trade shows. So again, this is where knowing a little bit about the inside workings of the industry, you can get connected to opportunities to get continuing education units, trade shows, workshops, online CEUs and specializations, right? Keep learning, always keep learning. College courses, industry contributions, and these are just, again, these are summarizing basically for you. Acquired skills and benefits. Again, you can read through this and it might open up some interesting possibilities working with niche populations, right? So youth athletics, older folks, even geriatrics. Now, just keep in mind, and they explain this to you, that you have to always remember that if you go into a niche population, you're probably going to need a little bit more extensive education certification. You're not going to be touching, quote, geriatric patients, right? Even if they are going to use your services, you're not going to touch youth without having some more extensive experience in those particular populations. I've known trainers that the only people they've ever worked with were pregnant women at all stages of pregnancy until the doctor said, no more training, but they would work specifically and they would do basically just classes with pregnant women. So there's any number of niche populations you can work with. Of course, a lot of folks like to work with athletes, and absolutely nothing wrong with that. The question is always going to be with these special populations, you're going to have a more well-developed understanding of how to market. Okay, because anytime you try to impact a particular part of the market, right, you're going to have to now put more time and effort because there's fewer people in a target market than in the general population. So now you have to actually create ads that are specific, right? Google ads, for instance, that are much more targeted and specific to this particular part of the market. So you got to keep that in mind, working with these populations. And of course, increased pay is what's going to come along with when you target these special population groups. You're generally going to charge more money. Keep in mind that increased pay also comes with the group training, and that's something that is really really important. So chapter 2 again continues the summary, sort of summarization from chapter 1. Read through it. It's very important as you go through the chapter review. Just keep in mind that there is a lot of material that they covered that you can write down for sure. And then chapter highlights. Remember, that's the bulleted points that give you a much more targeted view of what was spoken of in the particular chapter. So that ends chapter 2, and look forward to seeing you in chapter 3.